Pete Hegseth, the overgrown frat bro, is calling in literally every single one of our top military leaders in order to give them a little pep talk about the warrior ethos. No doubt he's going to brag about changing the DoD to the Department of War, but the only thing he knows about the warrior ethos is throwing an axe poorly right over the target and into the arm of an innocent drummer. We're talking about a man who can't even protect his own family jewels from a skateboard. And they expect us to believe that this guy's got the disposition and intelligence to command our military. Be sure to subscribe to Really American, and let's get into the latest tantrum from this tattooed man-child. He ordered our most senior leadership away from their positions in order to listen to him and Diaper Don whine about the warrior ethos.
This is going to prove how adaptable the military commanders are, Joe. You know, this thing started out as a attempt to talk about the warrior spirit, the warrior ethos. I'm sorry. The warrior ethos is just one part of the professional triad that the military has. You have the oath to the Constitution, the service's values. I can still name the Army values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, integrity, honor, and personal courage. All services have that. And then the warrior ethos is just a performative method of actualizing that. Well, it started out that way. And then it became, well, no, there was an announcement that someone in the Pentagon said this was all about getting the horses into the stable and whipping them into shape. That's insulting and condescending, talking to a bunch of individuals who have had 30 and 40 years worth of service, the last 20 years being in combat. But now it appears the president is going to show up and talk to them as well. And that's probably because this event has become such a lightning rod over its staggering costs, the security risk of bringing so many people into one place, and the disruption of ongoing operations. So the president will talk. We have seen the president talk at several military functions. First, there was the Fort Bragg function, which is embarrassing to the Army, the way those soldiers acted. I then attended personally the West Point graduation, and the cadets were told as they were sitting on the parade field getting ready to get their diplomas that they better keep a poker face and remember their professional activities. What we're going to see today after the UN speech that the president gave, or I'm sorry, tomorrow, after the UN speech, which was a little bit unplugged, I don't know what he's going to say to this audience, but they have to be adaptable again. Put on a stoic face, have a poker face, not show any emotion. But I'm sure, depending on what the president says, what Secretary of Defense Hegseth said, it may cause certainly some emotional reaction from the crowd. But they've got to remain professional, because that's what the military is. They are the force for the country. And there's an attempt to not only use them in these actions like we were talking about earlier, but also the potential whipping them into shape in this meeting that they're having in Quantico tomorrow.
It really feels like this whole administration is just making stuff up as they go, and everybody else just has to yes and it like it's improv. According to this general, even Donald Trump is scrambling along behind Pete Hegseth here. And he points out how Hegseth and Trump might be a little bit surprised by the cold reception that they're going to receive from the generals. Not only is it not customary to suck the Cheeto dust off your boss like Hegseth does, but it's also clear to these military officials that Dumpy Don and Whiskey Pete are trying to pervert the military to serve them instead of the people.
This will be a very respectful audience tomorrow. Our culture, our political culture in the country says there's two civilians only, the president and the Secretary of Defense, who give orders to the armed forces. I think Secretary Hegseth had no idea what he was doing, calling a no-notice meeting without specifying what the topic would be. I think he did want to harangue the senior enlisted and military leaders of the country about warrior culture. It's a hard one to pull off. These people, as you say, grew up in 20 years of combat, from lieutenant or E1 to the end of their career. They're now serving. And then I think President Trump had no idea what was going on, learned of it, horns in. This ought to be a very unusual, almost comical session. Why did he draw attention to this as if we were going to go to war over, Greenland or something? So it's a real mess.
So I want you to explain to those who may not be familiar with the military's culture, with tradition and honor and duty and service, how generals, admirals that will be attending here, they're apolitical. They may have their views and they may have their beliefs, but if Pete Hegseth or the president expects them to give them a rousing standing ovation tomorrow, talk, if you will, about what a breach that would be.
And by the way, that's a small point that a lot of civilians don't understand. A military audience doesn't applaud or take enthusiastic recognition of a speech by a senior officer. I have a feeling they're going to pass a word it better look like that on TV on this one. Look, this is all such an unusual situation. The day the American people make a final determination on an elected president, the military completely, 100%, switches over to being respectful and supportive under the law with this new administration. By the way, they all come in nervous about these generals with all their ribbons and are they going to pay any attention to us? Normally in about 3 to 6 months, they realize, no, these people actually know what they're doing, and they are going to be compliant with our policy directives. This administration has been chaotic. Now, Secretary Hegseth actually has a combat infantry badge, served in Iraq and Afghanistan, a nice Princeton grad. There's every indication that he could have been very successful. But so far, it looks shallow, sort of quixotic. It's a drama going on constantly. Some of it looks lawless or doesn't take into account existing American values. This is a messy situation, and it's not good for U.S. national security.
One of the hidden benefits of Trump appointing whoever he saw most on TV to positions of power is that most of them are complete idiots who think they're being savvy when in reality they're just incriminating themselves. Here's Pete Hegseth hinting at the idea that this little meeting of his is mirroring the Nazis demanding loyalty from German generals. Ben Hodges said, in July 1935, German generals were called to a surprise assembly in Berlin and informed that their previous oath to the Weimar Constitution was void and that they would be required to swear a personal oath to the Fuhrer. Pete Hegseth responded with, "Cool story, General." Now the right will say that Hegseth is just trolling here, that he's being sarcastic when he points to this historic analogy in reference to his own unprecedented and eyebrow-raising request for all military generals to meet face-to-face with the commander-in-chief. Now, I'm sure it's just a joke, but if it's not, I guess we'll all be laughing our way to the camps when ICE puts on their red armbands. Hegseth, the student of history, but only the wrong side of it, has a track record of these weird, evil, symbolic gestures. He found time in his busy schedule between Signal group chats and doing the gritty horribly at football games to make sure that literal mass murderers can keep their medals of honor.
Under my direction, we're making it clear without hesitation that the soldiers who fought in the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890 will keep their medals. And we're making it clear that they deserve those medals.
The Battle of Wounded Knee was less like a battle and more like the massacre at Wounded Knee. It's one of the most disgusting stains in our military's history books, and that's saying a lot as a nation built on the back of a successful settler colonial project. Massacre and genocide are a part of that history, as they are a part of the world's history, like right now in Gaza. And that's recognized even by folks who are willing to pull the trigger on innocents themselves, like Kristi Noem here. God knows that puppies are the most innocent of them all, and even she understands the horrors of Wounded Knee.
Wounded Knee was horrific, and our students should absolutely learn about the atrocities that happened there. In fact, I've been working with that tribe for years to try to get a true memorial built there that attracts people from around the world to come to Wounded Knee and learn about the terrible things that have happened there. So
it looks like Noem and Hegseth are in a little bit of a disagreement there. There's a lot of infighting happening in Trump's cabinet right now. A lot of instability, both as a team and internally. Hegseth Hegseth appears to be spiraling. He's remade the Pentagon to be his own personal office, complete with pictures of himself and his family, like a weirdo. But also, according to his aides, he's getting more and more erratic as time goes on. Here's the headline: Pentagon Pete's manic meltdowns exposed by aides. Time will tell what Hegseth's rah speech will have in store. He may have been trolling, and this is actually just the equivalent of a pointless pep rally, but it may be a demand from these generals to abandon their oaths and declare an undying loyalty to Donald Trump. Either way, we'll be here to break down the news at Really American. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.